Nobody is watching right now. And that is exactly the point. The session you are doing today, the one with no audience, no applause, no external reward or recognition of any kind, this is the session that determines everything. Not the one you perform when the stakes are visible, not the one you deliver when people are paying attention. This one, the invisible one, the one that happens in the gap between where you are and where you want to be, in the silence where nobody is counting and nobody is keeping score, except you. Because here is what the world never shows you. Every result you have ever admired, every body built, every business launched, every skill mastered, every life transformed, was built almost entirely in moments exactly like this one. Unremarkable, unwatched, utterly devoid of anything that would make a compelling highlight reel. Just a person and the work and the decision made again to keep going when stopping would have been so easy and so entirely unnoticed that nobody would have blamed them for it. The grind nobody sees is not the obstacle to the result everyone wants. It is the result everyone wants, being built in real time, one invisible session at a time. And today, I want to show you 3 people who understood this at such a deep level that they built empires from it. Empires that looked sudden to the world and felt inevitable to them, because they had been building in private long before the world was paying attention. Welcome to Motivation Daily.
Think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. Before the film career, before the 7 Mr. Olympia titles, before the governorship of California, there was a teenager in Thal, Austria, training in an unheated gym in the dead of winter, when the equipment was basic and the audience was zero. Schwarzenegger has spoken at length about those early years of training, the sessions in buildings so cold that the metal weights were too painful to touch without gloves, the workouts conducted without coaches or crowds or any external validation that any of it was working. He trained when nobody was watching, not because he was hoping someone would watch eventually, but because he had made a decision about the person he was going to become, and the decision required showing up in private long before the public was invited. He has described those invisible sessions as the foundation of everything that followed, not just the physique, but the psychology. The proof accumulated daily in those cold rooms that he was someone who kept promises to himself. That proof is what made him unshakable when the stakes got high, because he had already tested himself 1,000 times in the low-stakes silence where nobody was watching and the only measurement that existed was his own. Now think about Taylor Swift. Before the stadium tours and the record-breaking albums and the cultural dominance that has made her one of the most successful artists in the history of the music industry, there was a 12-year-old girl in Pennsylvania teaching herself guitar and writing songs in her bedroom that nobody asked for and nobody heard. She has spoken about writing hundreds of songs before she wrote a single one that she considered worth sharing. Hundreds. In private. Without an audience, without feedback, without the external validation that most people require before they will commit fully to a craft. She was building the skill and the voice and the emotional vocabulary of a songwriter in complete obscurity, session after session, song after song, learning through the repetition of making things that were not yet good what it would eventually take to make things that were extraordinary. The grind nobody saw was not the precursor to the career. It was the career, being assembled in secret, one imperfect, unreleased song at a time. By the time the world heard her, she had already done the work. The overnight success took years of invisible consistency to produce. And think about Leonardo DiCaprio. He received his first Academy Award nomination in 1994. For What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a performance so raw and so technically accomplished that veteran actors on set reportedly forgot they were watching a 19-year-old who had never taken a formal acting class. What those actors saw as natural talent was something else entirely. DiCaprio has spoken about the preparation for that role, the months spent in group homes and institutions, observing people with developmental disabilities, studying movement patterns, rehearsing mannerisms, building a physical and emotional character from scratch through hours of invisible work that the final performance made look effortless. He was nominated again for The Aviator, for Blood Diamond, for The Wolf of Wall Street. He did not win for any of them. He kept working. He kept doing the preparation in private that the performances required in public. He won, eventually, for The Revenant, a role that required him to sleep in animal carcasses, eat raw bison liver, and film in sub-zero temperatures for months. Not glamorous, not visible, just the grinding, unglamorous, completely private commitment to doing whatever the work required, regardless of whether anyone was watching the preparation. The grind nobody saw produced the performance the whole world recognized. Here is what those three stories make undeniable. Consistency in private is the only kind of consistency that actually builds anything. The public moments, the performances, the results, the visible achievements are simply the surface of an iceberg whose mass lives entirely underwater, in the sessions nobody saw, in the work nobody applauded, in the decisions made again and again in the silence, where the only person keeping score was the person doing the work. That is you, right now, in this moment. Nobody is watching, nobody's counting, nobody will know whether you showed up fully today, or coasted, or skipped entirely. Nobody except you. And you are the only audience that has ever built anything. Stay consistent. Do the invisible work. The world will see the result. You already know what it costs. Share this with someone who is deep in the invisible grind and needs to be reminded that the work nobody sees is the work that builds everything. Subscribe to Motivation Daily. We show up in your invisible hours to remind you why they matter. Drop a comment and tell me, what is the grind nobody sees that you are committed to staying consistent with today? Name it out loud. The unseen work deserves to be acknowledged. Let's go.